In this video, I'm going to show you how to fully automate these popular reaction style videos that you see on social media.
Slightly improve each one, and they all get a little bit better together.
Yeah.
I'll show you how you can select videos from popular influencers on platforms like TikTok and automatically download them into Airtable, and then record your own reaction video, and then automatically stitch the two videos together like this, all without a video editor or costly monthly subscriptions. Here's how it works. First, you go to a platform like TikTok and you select a video. I'm just going to copy and paste that, then head back to Airtable. Then I'm going to go to my Airtable form here. I'm going to open it up. And I'm just going to paste that link here into the form, and I'm going to go ahead and submit. Once I do that, this make.com automation is going to run automatically, and it's going to download that video and then upload that into Airtable. Once you come back to Airtable, we're going to go to select style, and we're going to see that new video here as a row. If I were to click on this video here, we would see that TikTok video. Then the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is select a style. This is going to allow me to automatically position the video I'm going to react to on either the bottom right, the bottom left, the top right, or the top left. I'm going to go with the bottom right. Once I do that, it's going to leave this view here, and then you navigate here to record reaction. Then you're simply going to record yourself watching the video. Here's an example video of me reacting to the video. Once you've recorded that video, you simply upload it to my reaction video, just like this. Once that video is uploaded, it's going to trigger another make automation. You can see that automation running here. It calls an API that you can download for free called the No Code Architect's Toolkit that will stitch the reaction video and the original video together. That's going to process, and then when it's done, you'll be able to come here to finished videos. We'll wait a moment, and then when that video is done, we'll see it pop up here at the top. Now we can see that video has finished processing, so we can go ahead and open it and watch. Notice you'll see here is the video of me reacting, and then the original video that we downloaded from TikTok. It automatically stitched them together, and if I were to play the video,
I kind of see the modern business as just like your content, your funnel, and your product. You can just slightly improve each one.
We can see the video playing with me reacting to the video. And then once this video is over, you can actually see my response.
So like, yeah, it just drives everything.
Now, obviously this guy is telling it straight. You could easily complete 10 plus videos in just a few minutes at almost no cost to you. Now, if you want immediate access to this Airtable base and the make.com blueprint, so you can simply import the blueprints just like this and have the automation pop right up, make sure to jump into the No Code Architects community. You can get access to the templates you see on the video today and a whole lot more. All right, so now let's start in Airtable. I'm gonna show you how the content reaction magic Airtable base works. We have two tabs here. One is to store all of the reaction videos, and then we have another tab here which allows us to define all of the different styles that we want in our reaction videos. Currently, I have 4 different styles here that are designed for vertical videos. We have bottom right, bottom left, top right, and top left. And that just helps us select where we want this video to appear. Do we want it down here in the bottom right? Would we rather have it up here, over here, or down here? Now, there's lots of other configurations that you can build as well. I've seen videos where someone is reacting from the top half, and then we see the bottom half here. The system is quite flexible. All you have to do is come to the styles and set those up right here. You set up the width and the height of the video that you're recording. You set a value for scale. And what that does is it scales down the video to 45% in this case of the original size of the full length reaction. And then you select an X and Y coordinate, which is used to position the video properly within the full reaction video. So this spot right here is 500 pixels from the right and 950 pixels from the top. So this is 500 pixels from the left, and this is 950 pixels from the top. And then this field here is a little bit more complex. Feel free to copy and paste this into your own Airtable base, but it is a filter that is used in the make automation with the No Code Architects Toolkit, which is a free API that you can get access to that allows you to manipulate media just like we did in this video. So if I expand this here, you can see we have some code here that tells the No Code Architects Toolkit about the videos that it needs to process, the filter to use to actually combine the videos. And again, this filter here corresponds to this filter. When the automation runs, we actually take this directly and map it right into this automation right here. I'll explain this in a bit more detail later. That's really all that we have to this styles tab here. Back in the reactions video tab, this is where we select the style. And then moving on to this view here, this is where we record our reaction. We don't see any rows here now because all of the reaction videos have been uploaded. If I were to come down here to all videos and remove this video here from the my reaction video column, then if we were to jump back to this view here, we would see an incomplete row here where we can upload that video. And again, if I were to upload that video, then this automation here would be triggered to fire off the process to stitch together the reaction and the original video. Then moving on, this video here just shows us all of the finished videos. And the way that these views work to help facilitate the workflow is we simply decide which columns that we should show for any particular view. And then we can use these filters here to determine which rows should show up in any particular view. And it's a combination of these views and which columns that you show and which records in each view that you show that allows you to develop an app-like experience where you can actually have flow between the different workflows of your automation. So it's Airtable that allows your automations to feel like a real application. And there's one other view here, all videos, which simply shows you all the rows in the system without any filters, so that at any given time when you might not be able to see a specific row, you can always come here to see and find where something might be. It's also nice to have a view like this when you're building out your automations. In case you can't find a row and you think it should be here and it's not, you can always come to a view like this to look at the state of the rows and the columns to determine why it's not showing up in a particular view. Down here, we have two views that are used to help trigger our automations. This view here is designed to get the TikTok once you use the form. So if I come here to the form and then I open that form and then I go back to TikTok and say, grab this video URL. And then if I come back to the form and go ahead and submit, if I were to come back to Airtable and go to the get TikTok, we're going to see that we have a new row here, and that fired off an automation here in Make to grab that TikTok and then write it back to Airtable. Once that completes, it will actually fall out of this view, as you can see here, and we'll now see that here. And then we can continue that process and select the style, bottom right. And again, here we could add the reaction video, and then it would create that final video here. And it's this view here that actually fires off the automation that comes down this path to actually generate that final stitched video. And then I already showed you this form here. This is actually the form builder. This is how you actually build the form. If I wanted other fields on this form, I could simply drag them on to the form. And then if I were to open the form, we would see that field here. I'm going to go ahead and take that back off and then refresh the form. And then this here is just another view that I have on all my Airtable bases in all of my tabs. I call it all data in all fields. It's a view that has all of the columns and no filters turned on, so we can always quickly get to a view where we can see all of our data. When you're building out your Airtable databases, it's important to hide as much as you can so that the interface is nice and clean and you can really make it feel like it's an actual application. But sometimes when you are building your automation or running your application, something doesn't seem right. You can't find something that you need. And so it's always nice to have a view here where you can just do some debugging and find that or see any of the values that are otherwise hidden in the normal views here. And then if we were to jump into the automations, I'll cover this in a bit more detail in a bit, but we're going to see three different automations here. One is the automation that fires off the trigger to get the TikTok. So if I were to come back to this view here, anytime a row comes into this view, it will trigger this automation here, which sends a request to the make.com webhook that triggers the automation. And then this automation here, generate video, is the one that is triggered when a new record enters this view. So if a new record here enters this view, it will trigger this automation, which again will trigger this make automation. And instead of going up this path to get the TikTok, it'll take this path to actually combine and stitch the video. And then here, once the No Code Architects Toolkit is done stitching the video together, it will actually send a request back to Airtable to write it back to the database so that we can see the final video here in our final video column. And we can simply open it up and then watch the video. So real quick here, I'm going to come to all data and all fields where we can see all of the columns in case you want to build out something similar to this. Here we're looking at all data and all fields for the reaction videos tab. Here we have a formula, which is just simply adding an R before the auto incrementing ID that we have here. Here we have the TikTok video URL, which is added when we enter the URL into this form. Then once the video is downloaded, we attach it to the TikTok video column here, which is an attachment. Then we have a column here called TikTok duration. This simply tells us the duration of the TikTok video we downloaded. Then we have another attachment field here, my reaction video, where we can upload the reaction to the TikTok video. Then we have the style column, which is a linked record to the styles tab. Any record we add here with the configuration information here will show up when we actually select this plus sign, and it will give us the ability to select from one of the styles in this table. Then we have some lookup tables. Anytime you see that little magnifying glass, you know it's a lookup table. And all of these columns, scale, X, Y, and filter template, are all coming from the style table. Notice if we jump over to styles, you're going to see the scale, the X and Y, the filter template. We have a width and height. And then we also have a linked record here that links back to the videos. So the reaction videos links to styles, and then styles links back to the video. So if we scroll over, we'll also see the height and the width from that style table. We also see an attachment field for the final video. And then you'll see a formula here. I'll open it up. And what this is doing is it's replacing all of the values that are in this template. See, you can see width and height and scale. And if we open this up, we're also going to see X and Y. What this does is it replaces all of the real values for this particular video. So we have 0.45 for the scale, and we have X and Y, but this formula actually takes this template and fills in these values with the real values for this particular video. So if we were to open up this to see in more detail, we could see that the scale was replaced by the 0.45. You can see the X and the Y were replaced by 500 and 950 respectively. You can see here that we have the duration of the original TikTok and also the width and height of the video. So that's how we keep the system dynamic and flexible so that it can work with any style video. And then jumping over to styles, again, we've already covered all the columns here in this tab. We have the name of the style, how much we want to scale down the video from the reaction, the X and Y coordinates, that filter template, the video width and height. Now, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It tells me what type of content you want more of. Now, before I explain how the Make.com automation works from beginning to end, I want to talk to you about the No-Code Architects Toolkit, which is the free tool that allows you to stitch together the videos. There's really two parts to the toolkit. One part is the actual code that you need in order to deploy your own server. Here I'm on the Google Cloud, and you can see I have an instance of the No-Code Architects Toolkit running. This is step one. You need to get it up and running. I'm not going to cover how to install it in this video today because I've done so before. I'll link to this video in the description below. It shows you how to use the No-Code Architects Toolkit to automatically caption your videos. It'll show you how to install the toolkit step by step. And the second part of the No-Code Architects Toolkit is this Make.com module that helps you interface with your own No-Code Architects Toolkit that you deploy on the Google Cloud. This hasn't yet been released to the public, so if you come here to add this module, you won't actually see it here yet, but I will put a link in the description below that will give you early access to this Make.com module so that you can use it today. All right, so now let's go ahead and explain the Make.com automation in detail. The first module that we have here is a custom webhook. That is simply waiting for a request from Airtable. Remember, I showed you the automations here. We have two automations here that call the same Make.com automation, and it just goes down a different path depending on the Airtable automation. This automation here is the one that gets the TikTok. It is triggered when a record enters the view get TikTok. And again, if we jump back to Airtable and jump to the reaction tab and then down to the views for automation, we have this get TikTok view. And when a record enters this view, it will trigger this automation, which then triggers this Airtable script code. We pass the script the record ID that we got from the trigger. And then we also pass a video URL to the script, which is the TikTok video URL. And then we also pass the webhook URL, which is the webhook URL from our Make automation that you can find inside your Make custom webhook. That URL is right here. So I copy that webhook directly into here. And then what this code simply does is it pulls in that record ID in that video URL and also the webhook URL, and it prepares some data so that we can trigger that webhook in make.com. So to show you how this works, I'm going to come back. I'm going to go ahead and turn this automation off. Then I'm going to come back into the automation. I'm going to run it once so that it's waiting for a request. Then I'm going to come back to Airtable. I'm going to turn this automation off so that we can control a test so that it doesn't fire off without us knowing. I'm going to jump over to TikTok. I'm going to grab another video here. I'm going to come back to Airtable. I'm going to go to our Airtable form where we can drop in this new URL. I'm going to go ahead and click submit. If I come back to Airtable and go to get TikTok, we should see that new row here, and there it is. Now, if I come back to our Airtable automation here and then click on our trigger, should be able to choose a record. And we're going to see that new row here, R10. If I were to select it and then move to this step here, I could actually scroll down on the bottom. I could test that action. And then what we'll see is we'll see this trigger here, and then it'll go down this path, and then I'll be able to explain what's happening here. So I'm going to go ahead and test that action. I'm going to jump back to make. We're going to see this trigger. Now here we have a router that is helping us determine which automation we should trigger. In this case, we have a filter here that is looking for action scrape videos. Here we're using a platform called Appify. Check it out. It's pretty cool. It allows you to scrape content from a lot of different websites and much more. Here we're using one of the actors to grab the TikTok. And then we have to pass a JSON with various settings. One of the most important ones being a video URL that is passed into the webhook from Airtable. Again, remember we pass in the video URL. So that video URL is passed in from the webhook, and then we can add it here into the payload for our call to Appify. Then we have to make another call to Appify that actually grabs all of the data, including the URL. If I expand this media URLs here, we can actually see a download link to grab the video, as well as a bunch of other metadata like the caption from the video. We can get the share count, the play count. We can get some information about the video metadata, like the height, width, and the duration, and the cover URL. Let's go ahead and open this up and take a look at the call itself. Again, we're calling Appify, and then this here, we're passing in the dataset ID that comes from this module here. If we were to open up the output here you can see that dataset ID, which again, we're passing in to this module here, and then a few other simple settings. And then finally, again, we get that output, and then we simply write that back into Airtable. So here we are updating a row into the Airtable base, table videos with the record ID again that we passed into the webhook. And then here we're simply passing in the download address into the TikTok video attachment field. And then we're also dropping in the duration of the TikTok video into the TikTok duration column. That way we know how long the video is when we're trying to splice it together with the No-Code Architects toolkit. So that's the process for downloading the TikTok and uploading it to Airtable. The final process is to stitch the video together using the No-Code Architects toolkit. So again, that process starts off at the same place that the download TikTok does at this webhook. So I'm going to jump back to Airtable. I'm going to go to record reaction. Actually, first I'm going to jump to the Airtable automations, and I'm also going to turn off generate video so that this doesn't fire in the background where we aren't aware. Makes it easier to test. Now I'm going to jump back to this view here, record reaction. I'm going to jump over to select style. We're going to see that new row here, R10 again, and I'll go ahead and select the style. We need that to move to the next step. Vertical video, bottom right. Now I'm going to jump back to record reaction. I've already recorded that reaction. So again, I'm just going to upload that, which will allow this row here, R10, to show up in the build video view. Here we see R10 again. Now if we come back to this automation and we come to this trigger here, which triggers when a record enters the view build video. Again, we are in the build video view here. I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to choose a record. We should see R10. There it is. Now again, here we have another script that's going to run that is going to trigger and call this webhook again. This time it's going to send slightly different data. In this case, we really only need to send the record ID of this particular row. And then we also need to pass in the webhook URL. Again, this webhook URL is coming from the make automation here, which we can find right there. So now I'll go ahead and run this once as well. I'll come back to the Airtable automation. I'm going to come down here to edit code. Here we have the variables again that we're passing into the script that we are able to access here. And then again, we're just preparing some data and then calling the code to trigger the make.com webhook. So let me make sure we have this running. We already did the run once down below. So now I can come over here to the right and simply test the action. Jump back over to make.com. We're going to see that webhook get hit, and then it's going to come down this router instead. The first module here is just simply getting that record that we passed in from the webhook. Again, here's that record ID, and then we get that record. And we get that record so that we have all of the information that we need from Airtable to call our No-Code Architects toolkit module. So now I'm going to go inside of the No-Code Architects toolkit. Going to move this over to the right a bit, and I'll expand this. Again, we have a JSON that we pass to the No-Code Architects module. I won't be able to explain the ins and outs of this entire JSON. It's a little bit complicated, but you can definitely just take a look at it and copy and paste it as needed. It starts with the inputs. We have to send it 2 files. The first video here is the reaction video, and then we also send it the TikTok video. Coming from the attachment columns inside the Airtable base, the TikTok video and the My Reaction video just disappeared because that video came back from the No-Code Architects toolkit. Then we pass in the filters so that the No-Code Architects toolkit knows how to process these 2 videos together. The No-Code Architects toolkit, and more specifically the FFmpeg compose JSON module, is a very flexible module that allows you to manipulate media in lots of different ways. It just so happens in this particular instance, we are taking that reaction video and we are stitching it together with the TikTok. And we are also using it to apply this red border around the original video. The filter that I showed you before in the Airtable base is the exact information that we use and pass to the NCA toolkit that allows us to specifically tell the toolkit to do the function that we want, which is, again, to take our TikTok video, overlay it on top of the reaction, and then also to add the red box around the video. If we were to actually look at the filter here, we can see this first stage here is scaling the TikTok video to the original width and height of the My Reaction video. That just ensures that the TikTok video and the reaction video that is recorded are at the same width and height so that when we scale them, they scale in the same manner. And then here is the section where we actually draw the box. You can see the red color that we use, and then here's the thickness of the border. And then this last section of the filter is what actually overlays the 2 videos together and stitches them together. Now I've got a lot of material in other places that explains how to use this particular make module, and also the toolkit, specifically the FFmpeg compose module. In fact, I do have a GPT called the NCA Toolkit API that will allow you to talk with it and figure out how to build these different filters from scratch. And then the final piece to this JSON are these outputs where we're able to describe how the different videos should be mapped together and what type of encoding to use for the video and the audio. And then finally here, we can pass in a webhook URL, and you can see this webhook URL is pointing to Airtable. And if we were to jump back to Airtable, we would see this generate video automation. This automation is actually triggered when something sends a request to Airtable. And so when the NCA toolkit is done processing that video and stitching the 2 videos together, it will actually call Airtable at this webhook. So if we were to look at this webhook URL here, notice it's VDRI. And if we were to come back to make, we see VDRI, and then we also pass it the record ID that would correspond to the record in question. That way we can come to this update record and we have that record ID so that we can update the row with that final video. Now, again, if you want access to this Airtable base, so you can simply install it along with the make.com blueprint, so you can just import the blueprint in just a couple clicks and have the automation pop up just like that. Make sure to jump into the No-Code Architects community. It's got a Make an Airtable beginner course, along with the automations that you saw today, along with a whole bunch of others. Hope to see you there. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.
I kind of see the modern business as just like your content, your funnel, and your product. You can just slightly improve each one, and they all get a little bit better together.
Yeah. And it all starts with what the customer actually wants.
You don't really need like a complex funnel or anything. You just have the community and you build everything for that. You're going to get a lot of engagement and response. And then that can kind of fuel everything else. I take all my community posts and I just send them to other platforms, like to YouTube, the YouTube community. It's crazy. Like people will be like, oh, I've never seen someone write this much on YouTube. I've never read a post that
You're
long.
like, bro, I wrote it in school.
So like, yeah, it just drives everything.
Now, obviously this guy is telling it straight what we have learned in pretty much every industry out there in marketing, as long as you do what nobody else is doing, that's how you're going to stand out. If nobody's writing long posts on YouTube, write long posts on YouTube. If nobody's giving away anything valuable on YouTube, give it all away. That's how it works.